All right, so I did warn you that we weren't quite finished with the egg yet. The egg does take a lot of detail and slight manipulations in terms of value. One thing that I want you to be conscious of while you're working is not laying down too much material. So when I say material, I'm talking about charcoal powder or the white pastel pencil on top, because if you have too thick of a layer, you're going to be covering the roughness of the paper. That's called tooth. You actually need some tooth so that you have something to bite into with the pencil point. So it's light layers of charcoal. And when I work, I'm doing a short kind of hatch. I am curving my stroke around the form, and I'm trying to get all those little nuances in terms of value shifts. Some of you have asked about your background. Can you change your background? The answer is yes, you can. I do want to see gradients, though, in your background. That's when you have it go from dark and shift to a mid-tone and then go to a lighter value of gray. Same is true of your cast shadow. In fact, you should have gradients throughout this entire drawing. I am putting white into the ground plane. So the ground plane, that means the tabletop or whatever surface the egg is sitting on. So I'm lightly putting in some white there. I want to make sure that my highlight though pops out. So I don't want the highlight and the light on the ground plane to compete. I want the highlight to take center stage. I did use cross hatching in my foreground, so it's not only in the background, but it's in the foreground too. Oftentimes, I'll re-blend or wipe out areas and then shade back in on top of that. We talked a little bit about that yesterday, that it's important that you don't leave everything blended because too smooth can be kind of boring to look at. It's good when you layer on top. We talk a lot about layering in this class. It's going to be important, and also being sensitive to the different shifts in value. The goal of this exercise is to make the egg really pop three-dimensionally. Something that's really critical is making sure you're taking a moment throughout the class period to step back from your work. You want to take about 3 feet back and evaluate your work standing up. And what you're looking for is whether the work has a 3D quality to it. Does the egg look like an egg? Does it have that illusion of depth and space? Having control over your edges is also huge when you're trying to make something appear to have volume to it. So you want to avoid having a lot of harsh, sharp edges. You can have a few. You mainly want to have edges that are soft or blurred. So where the background meets the foreground, you want to have a blurred or smoky edge. You want to have a blurred edge on parts of the egg too, although it's okay to have a few sharp edges. There's something called a lost and found edge, which would be great for you to create. It's where the edge kind of disappears against the value of the background for a split second and then reemerges. We will talk more about edge control at a later class, but it's something that you can start to pay attention to now. Basically, if you have all soft edges, it's actually a good thing, much more preferred than having all sharp edges. So think about blurring those edges a little bit, get them to be a little bit more smoky or hazy. Now I'm at the end of the drawing process and I'm just going back into the lights and making sure those lights really kind of contrast with the form shadow values so they pop. And I'm also doing what I told you guys to do, which is step back, look at my work, see what's working, what needs adjusting. I'm blurring certain areas. I'm also using a paper towel wrapped around my finger. You can do that in lieu of or in addition to using a blending stump. I like using both. So I'm more or less at the final stage of the drawing. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here, let you guys get some work done, and call me over if you need help or you want some feedback.